Hi there, and welcome back for week 3 of the APUSH Boot Camp. Here is your introduction. I'm going to go through your goals, your tasks, a preview of the content, introduce our next theme, America in the World, and then introduce you to the long essay question and give you some reminders for the week. So, your week 3 goals, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are the objectives that we have. So, we had 3 remaining objectives for period 3, and then we've got some objectives related to period 2 as well. And then finally, we want to understand the basic structure of the long essay question this week. So your readings this week are AMSCO pages 9 through 12, and then Taylor chapters 5 and 16. You're going to finish the FBI notes for period 1, and that will be based off of your AMSCO reading. You're going to continue to do your posts on Padlet, the same as we have done each week so far. I'd like for you to do the period 1 objectives, A, F, G, and then period 2 objectives, A and B. And then your final assignment this week is going to be to complete a thesis statement and basic outline of a long essay question. So for your content preview, there's really 2 main topics that we are going to be discussing. The first is cultural interactions. So kind of your basic question is what adaptations and misunderstandings occurred between people groups. So looking at Europeans, American Indians, and Africans, how did their cultures change as a result of these interactions, and what misunderstandings took place? So, kind of the 4 main categories to consider with these interactions is land ownership, property and trade, family and gender roles, and religion. And then 2 kind of main ideas are looking at Bartolome de las Casas and how he was a Spaniard who actually advocated on behalf of American Indians. So, what was happening in that advocacy? How did the conquistadors respond to that? How did it affect things with the African slave trade? So pay attention to Las Casas, and then also pay attention to conflicts such as the Pueblo Revolt, and that illustrates the challenges that were happening with these cultural interactions and misunderstandings. And then the second main topic for this week is going to be European colonization. So you're particularly looking at 4 European groups: the Spanish, the French, the Dutch, and the English. You want to understand how these settlements differed and how they were similar. And you want to consider the region in which they settled. What was the main goals of the empire? What were the characteristics of life and culture in these areas? And especially, how did each group treat American Indians? So if you need more on that than just what you had in your readings, I have 4 videos for you to check out that cover those ideas. So our next theme that we're talking about is Introduction to America in the World. So America in the World is one of the larger themes in this curriculum, and it focuses on the interactions between nations that affected North American history in the colonial period and the influence of the United States on world affairs. So you're looking at diplomatic, economic, cultural, and military interactions between empires, nations, and peoples, and how they shape the development of America and America's increasingly important role in the world. So here's a list of the topics in the curriculum that deal with America in the world. As you can see, this is our 3rd theme, and it is absolutely the most expansive of what we've seen so far. You can see there is a lot in periods 1, 2, and 3. Just a couple for 4 and 5, nothing in 6, and then 7 and 8 are also very intense. So what are some of the things that are studied with this theme? First is what we are looking at right now. How did European nations impact the Americas? And then looking at more generally what conflicts over land and resources in North America developed. So things like the French and Indian War, things like the Revolutionary War, but then also thinking about the Mexican-American War in the 1840s and the Civil War in the 1860s. How did American foreign policy remain consistent and change over time? Looking at America's ideas or attitudes about isolationism and interventionism. And then what debates emerged over America's proper role in the world as the U.S. started to expand further and further. Debates rose up about whether America should do that, and then continuing debates on that in the 21st century. Why and how has America become involved in overseas conflicts? So thinking about things like both world wars, the Spanish-American War, the Vietnam War, in present day more conflicts in the Middle East. Why and how has America become involved? And then what was the impact of those involvements? So those are all questions that you should be able to answer by the end of the year, and things that the lessons throughout the curriculum will help you to understand. And then finally, we are going to be introducing the long essay question this week, and we are going to look at it with a period 1 question. This is actually the question from the 2021 AP exam. Evaluate the extent to which transatlantic voyages in the period from 1491 to 1607 affected the Americas. So what I would like you to do for this assignment is to just write me a basic thesis statement. I'm not going to provide you any structure on this yet. I just want to see where you are at for thesis statements. So provide a basic thesis statement, choose 2 or 3 body paragraph topics, 2 main effects that you think happened as a result of these voyages, and then what evidence would you include? This does not need to be in paragraph form. It could be in bullets, brief sentences. It does not need to be intense. I just would like you to start thinking about this before our session on Wednesday, when we will dive in more closely. So just a reminder to complete your readings and then the initial posts on Padlet, your FBI notes, the objectives, and then your basic LEQ outline. So that is it for week 3. I look forward to seeing you or continuing to work with you online.